Hey, Zezzy Stuff. I'm Emma here with Molly, and we're going to be talking about the Texas Ohio State game. Now, Texas did lose to Ohio State 28-14. They did have a chance to tie it up at the end there, but it was a little bit fumbled by Quinn Ewers at the end of the game. There was a little wonky play calling in our opinions. But, Molly, as our Texas girl, how did you feel about your team in this game?
I won't lie, I shed some tears last night.
Oh.
Um, I'm really disappointed. I think there were a lot of bad calls. I think there were bad calls on the sides of the refs. I think, um, I don't know exactly who necessarily was running the play calls. I don't know if it was Sark. I'm not sure if it was like an offensive coordinator. I don't know from whoever was above. Did not do a good job last night. I also am just disappointed because like you said, we were 1 yard away from possibly tying the game and sending it into an overtime, which I think it was such a good game up until that point. And after that, I think we all kind of knew that the game was over. And then we threw another interception right after. So it's really unfortunate. And I don't know. My hope is that next year will be better. I think Ewers has now declared for the draft, so he definitely won't be coming back. This will be Manning's team, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how Manning can lead the team this next year. But you and I were just talking beforehand. It's really odd that, as well as Manning does in run plays, why Manning wasn't put in on the 1 yard line when Ewers just couldn't get it past the 1 yard line.
Yeah, I always say if you are on the 1 yard line, run it 4 times. And if you couldn't get 1 yard in 4 tries running the ball, whichever way, and honestly, they were stopping Texas's offense every single time they ran to the side. So honestly, down the middle, down the middle, down the middle, down the middle, maybe put Manning in there. If you can't get it in 4 tries, you don't deserve to win the game. So I don't know what all this like fancy play calling was at the end there. Just play old school like physical football. And Texas matched Ohio State's physicality and speed throughout most of the game. It was just those last 2 to 3 minutes where they kind of fell apart, and those were the most crucial here. So I was very impressed by Texas for most of the night, but I thought the play calling at the very end was just it wasn't it didn't work for me. I didn't love the play calling at the end.
I also want to shout out Texas O line because I feel like they've
Mhm.
been a consistent problem this whole season. But I will say the first half, they weren't really all there. The second half, they really did show up. I think it was the adrenaline pumping. I think, we were actually, making moves. We were possibly going to tie the game. And so I think maybe the O line does a little bit better under pressure. Obviously, I think Quinn Ewers actually had a pretty decent game, all things considered, just from normally he gets a little razzled. So I think he had a great game considering that. I think Texas had the best game they could have had, if we're being honest in this situation. They didn't play like they played against Georgia. They showed up. They were there. So I don't know. Really, I have to blame who called that play. I think that play literally determined the entire game. And obviously, it was such a weird moment seeing Quinn Ewers' old roommate take that ball and
Oh,
run it.
they were roommates.
They were literally
Grand
roommates.
dream. I was like, gosh, you guys are pouring salt in the wound.
Yeah, so no bad blood. I think it was all just about the game, but yeah, I think seeing and he's a big guy. Like seeing him pick up that ball and tuck and run for I think it was 87 yards was crazy. Uh,
Jack Blair was crazy. That was a great moment on Ohio State's side.
I think Ohio State had a great game. I think Will Howard, unfortunately for me, was had led a great team last night. Am I a big Will Howard fan? Not really. So that's really disappointing. But I'm going to shout him out and say, "Hey, you had a great game last night. Congratulations!" And I do want to talk about the calls though, because there were like on the ref side, these referees were just so picky with calls on both sides. This was not just, I'm not saying they favored OSU, I'm not saying they favored Texas. These refs called things that I just actually didn't see on either side. And also, they weren't calling at one point on that 1 yard line. There was pass interference and nobody called it. Um, I I don't know. I'm interested to see how that all plays out in the national championship. I believe they're going to be the same refs, is what I was reading online last night.
Yeah, I think so. And I feel like there was a couple calls missed, but you could say that about any game. I think for the most part, it was pretty equal. I did agree with both of the pass interference calls at the end against Ohio. I thought those you can't knock a player on the ground. But Ohio State, they were really shut down in this game. And so I think with Notre Dame moving forward, Notre Dame can look at the tape and be like, what did Texas do to really stop this Ohio State explosive offense? Texas was in it tit for tat with them pretty much the whole time. They held Ohio State to just 377 total yards, which is below their season average. They limited explosive freshman Jeremiah Smith to one catch for 3 yards, a remarkable achievement given his prior playoff performances. And they played disciplined football for most of the game, giving the offense opportunities to tie or even take the lead. They just weren't able to get there in the end. I think they just had a lot of short yardage struggles. They had that first and goal, Jared Gibson, which was stuff for no game. Second and goal, Wisner, who lost 7 yards on a toss play, which I was like, why are we doing that? Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Or put Manning in, like you said. So I just think at the end it was just bad play calling on the Texas side. But I was really proud of this team. I thought it was going to be a blowout, especially after that first drive from Ohio State. I was blown away by this Texas team. I don't think anybody was expecting them to stay in it. I will say if they didn't let Trayvon Henderson break loose for that 75-yard touchdown, it might have been a different story. The defense really needed to step up there. Special teams really needed to step up there to stop him.
I think, Notre Dame also needs to be watching film of the fact that Ohio has an explosive defense as well. I don't think we were really expecting that from last night's game. I think we were more so expecting, obviously, their offense was on fire, but I think that was where we were really going to see a game with Texas defense versus OSU's offense. But really, it kind of did flip for me. I think Ohio's defense was way better than I assumed. The fact that they overturned the first four balls on Texas side is crazy. So I think, Notre Dame needs to be looking at the film of how they're stopping the ball, where they're stopping the ball, and where Texas had weak points on that offensive line. It was incredibly sad. I think the turnovers, the play calls, the rough calls, genuinely all of it was not great. I mean, even our own LC from Inside Texas even says, he would love a review of how a center Jake Majors gets a false start. I mean, that just like never happens. So yeah, overall, I think it was not a great game. I think it was a good game up until that 1 yard line in the fourth quarter. So
Yeah, and I mean, this Ohio State team moving forward, I think could absolutely win the national championship. I think Notre Dame could absolutely win the national championship. These two teams have emerged as powerhouses this year for college football. And Will Howard, he had that visible injury, that like swollen golf ball size lump on his throwing hand. So he was battling through that, and I thought it wasn't his best game. He wasn't perfect. He had that one interception, but he was very composed and he led Ohio State to a win against this well prepared Texas team. So I was really impressed by him. Also, Texas, they managed to neutralize Jeremiah Smith. They limited him to just one catch for 3 yards. However, Ohio State's depth at wide receiver, proved to be there. I mean, they had Tate and Buka. They really stepped up for 12 receptions, 138 yards. So they have other people working in their favor. And I think if they can keep their offense explosive, if they keep being gritty like they were against Texas, then they'll pull it out against Notre Dame. But if Notre Dame can really shut down this offense like Texas did for a good portion of that game and be 1 for 1, then it really just depends on who gets that one lucky turnover in the end. And in this game, it was Ohio State. So I think we have a great national championship moving forward with Ohio State and Notre Dame. Texas, beyond proud of. I did not expect them to be that good. So, any last thoughts on?
I think all the SEC haters need to go away because I think Texas made it the furthest out of the entire SEC. Obviously, Georgia could not. by past Notre Dame, and I think we got to look at the facts here. I think Texas made it the furthest, and I think they do belong in the SEC. And I really look forward to a season with them next year. Yeah, I think they're a great team, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Texas has proven itself in the playoffs that they are. I would say Georgia's up there too. They were the SEC champion, did beat Texas twice, but I think they are one of the strongest teams in the SEC. And then with Manning next year and the depth that they have all around, I think they're going to be very strong moving forward.
Well, thank you guys so much for reviewing the Ohio State Texas game. We really look forward to seeing you next week. If you're not already, go ahead and follow us on X, TikTok, and Instagram. We'll see you later.